Welcome to 21st Sports preview and prediction for the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Houston Texans in their wild card matchup in round one of the playoffs. So we got the Chiefs going into Houston to face the Texans, and let's go over some stats for these two teams in 2015. They did face off in week one, and the Kansas City Chiefs actually won that game. The Chiefs winning that game, they ended up going on a 5-game losing streak before finishing the season with 10 straight wins, as the Chiefs are the hottest team in football right now with the longest current winning streak. That was a close game back in week one, as the Texans, they fell behind early on. Travis Kelce had those couple of touchdowns in the first half, and in the second half, the Texans rallied, but they would fall just short, losing the game 27-20. So the Chiefs won that one 27-20. They started off really hot in that first half, jumped out to the big lead, but and the Texans started to come back. Kelce actually left the game as he was just on fire. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they win that one. And let's look at the stats overall, as I said, between these two teams for the whole season. The Chiefs on offense were 27th in yards, and they were 9th in scoring, as the Chiefs averaged 25.3 points per game. Now, conversely, we look at the Texans, and on offense, they were 19th in yards, 21st in scoring 21.2 points per game. So the Chiefs average 4.1 more points per game. And right there, that's probably going to be about the difference in this game. Of course, the Chiefs won the first time around by a touchdown. But let's look at the defense for both these teams. The Chiefs are 7th in yards allowed and 3rd in points allowed, only allowing 17.9 points per game. The Texans are 3rd in yards allowed and 7th in points allowed, allowing just 19.6. So both good defenses. The Chiefs let up a little bit more yards, but less points, as they allow 1.8 less points. So they score 4.1 more points and allow 1.8 less points. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. So the edge goes to the Chiefs statistically speaking. If we look a little further in to the statistics, the Chiefs, their passing offense is 30th, and their rushing offense is 6th, and that's in yards. And they're going to be going against the Texans defense that is 3rd against the pass, and that's in yards allowed, and they're 10th against the rush in yards allowed. So the Texans match up pretty well on that side of the ball, as they're going to be able to shut down the passing game, or at least they should, even though they did struggle against at least Travis Kelce, who scored a couple touchdowns against them in the first half when they met back in week one. Of course, that seems like a long time ago, but it's really going to be interesting to see what that rushing offense of Kansas City does against the Texans' rushing defense. Their rushing defense is pretty good, but it's not the best. It's top 10, but it's 10. So they're not the best run defense, but they're pretty good. And so that's really where the game is going to be won and lost, is on the ground for Kansas City on offense, and if the Texans can stop that rushing attack. And we look at the Texans on offense, they're 18th in passing yards, and they're 15th in rushing yards. Whereas the Chiefs on defense, they're 9th in yards allowed through the air and 8th in yards allowed on the ground. So right there in that matchup, the edge goes to Kansas City. They've got a good defense that matches up well against the Texans on offense, and they struggle on offense. Of course, they're without Arian Foster. Of course, Jamal Charles has not been around for a long time for the Chiefs. So both teams are without their starting running backs. But the Texans, they rely on DeAndre Hopkins to have a big game. Also, they got Nate Washington, Cecil Shorts the third. But that secondary of the Chiefs, there's some ball hawks. And that's when we look at the turnovers. The Chiefs are second in the league in plus minus. They are plus 20 when it comes to turnovers. In large part, that's due to Marcus Peters, who's been having a phenomenal rookie year. And for the Texans, they're 13th. They're actually tied for 10th, but they're plus 5 when it comes to their turnover ratio. So the Texans can force some turnovers too, but the Chiefs, they're one of the best in the league when it comes to forcing those turnovers. And so it's going to come down to if Hoyer can protect the ball. Also, Alfred Blue's got to have to protect the ball as well. Is the Chiefs, they can get after the quarterback. They've got a strong pass rush. They also shut down the run. They've got an excellent secondary. So the Texans are going to have trouble putting points on the board against the Chiefs' defense. And then conversely, the Chiefs, they're going to struggle to get anything going through the air. So Macklin is going to have to step up. Also, Travis Kelce, if he can perform like he did the first time around, that should go a long way towards the Chiefs winning this game on the road. And then it's going to come down to also their running game. That's the strength of the Kansas City offenses. Alex Smith contributes on the ground. Also, Spencer Ware, Chigandrick West, they've been stepping up big time since Jamal Charles went down. And they're going to have to continue to do that. And that's what they have been doing. Kansas City has just been on a roll. Those 10 games that they've won in a row, they beat Pittsburgh, Detroit, Denver, San Diego, Buffalo, Oakland, San Diego, Baltimore, Cleveland, Oakland. Not the toughest of schedules in that streak, but, it's a 10-game winning streak, and that's not easy to do. It's one of the toughest things to do in football is to keep a winning streak going and to just pile on the wins one after another. They look like they were done after that 5-game losing streak where they lost to Denver, Green Bay, Cincinnati, Chicago, and Minnesota. But of course, way back in week 1, they'd beat the Texans, and that was, they started off 1-0 before losing those 5 games. Of course, Jamal Charles went down in week 5. But then after, they had a kind of rocky start there in week 6 without him, but then they got things back on track. Like I said, West and Ware, the 2 dubs, been getting it done on the ground for Kansas City. So it'll be a fun game to watch for sure. It's going to be interesting. Got 2 really strong defenses. And the Texans especially have been really playing excellent defense down the stretch, as they actually have won 7 of their last 9 games and 8 of their last 11 after being 1-4. So they were 1-4, and the Chiefs were 1-5, and then they both made a strong push in the second half of the season. 2 of the better teams in the second half of the season, and it's going to be fun to see who comes out on top in the wild card game. Of course, it's going to be the first wild card game. It's probably going on as you're watching this. It might even be already over, so we'll see how that shapes up. And I'm going to have to go with Kansas City in this one. It should be a good game, though. I wouldn't be shocked if Houston ends up pulling it out. It is in Houston. Usually that's worth a field goal. In Kansas City, when you look at the differential in terms of their average points scored and allowed, it has them, winning by maybe 5. But if you take away that 3, it becomes like a 2-point game. So this one more likely is going to come down to a score, down to the very last possession. It'll be a 1-score game is what I'm trying to say there. So it'll come down to maybe a field goal or a touchdown. That's how it was the first time around. It was a 1-score game, and I expect the same this time as well. Maybe it'll be a different result than week 1, but I'm picking the Chiefs to once again beat the Texans. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and having a great weekend and enjoying all the sports.